What if tomorrow, Europe wakes up and realizes no one is coming to save it? Not America, not NATO, no one. This fear is exactly why world leaders are secretly worried ahead of the Munich Security Conference. After World War II, Europe was completely destroyed. Cities were in ruins. Economies had collapsed. Millions had died. Europe learned one painful lesson. Another war on this continent would be suicidal. That's when a simple but powerful formula was created. The formula was, America would provide security. Europe would focus on business, welfare, and quality of life. War in Europe would become unthinkable. This arrangement started around the late 1940s, especially after the creation of NATO in 1949. The U.S. stationed troops, weapons, and nuclear protection across Europe. In simple words, America became Europe's security guard. So this wasn't random at all. This formula actually made perfect sense. Europe was exhausted after World War II. Instead of spending money on tanks and missiles, European countries decided, let's build schools instead of soldiers. Let's fund hospitals instead of heavy weapons. Let's invest in pensions, welfare, and jobs. Meanwhile, the United States spent huge money on military bases, nuclear deterrence, defending Europe against threats. This division of roles worked perfectly for decades. Let's start with military bases, the backbone of America's global power. For decades, American soldiers were not far away. They were living inside Europe. The United States built and operated hundreds of military bases across Europe. In Germany, entire towns grew around U.S. bases. American fighter jets flew daily training missions over European skies. Local shops, schools, and housing existed because U.S. troops lived there. For ordinary Europeans, this meant security was visible but quiet. You could live your normal life because someone else was already standing guard. Second comes nuclear deterrence, an invisible shield that prevented wars before they even started. Europe's biggest fear during the Cold War was nuclear war. Instead of every country building its own nuclear weapons, Europe relied on the American nuclear umbrella. In simple terms, if Europe was attacked, the U.S. promised to respond, even with nuclear force if needed. This made enemies think twice. They didn't see bombs falling. They didn't see missiles flying, because deterrence worked. For decades, no major power dared to attack Western Europe directly. Third, defending Europe when it truly mattered. Whenever serious danger appeared, America took the lead. U.S. intelligence detected threats early. U.S. air power responded first. U.S. logistics moved troops faster than anyone else. European armies supported, but the backbone was American. This created a powerful message to rivals. Touch Europe, and you face the U.S. That message kept peace for generations. This division of roles worked perfectly for decades. From the 1950s to the early 2000s, Europe experienced no major wars inside Western Europe. Rapid economic growth, strong middle class, free healthcare, education, and social security. Borders felt safe. Passports mattered less. Young Europeans grew up believing, war is history. It won't happen again here. Let's connect this to every European's daily life. Imagine a European family. Because Europe didn't spend heavily on the military, your child's school was free or affordable. Your hospital visit didn't bankrupt you. Your parents received pensions. Your electricity, transport, and public services were subsidized. Most Europeans never asked, who is guarding our borders tonight? Because the answer was always assumed. America is. Security became invisible, like electricity. You only notice it when it goes off. Then war arrived, and in a single moment, the illusion collapsed. Then came 2022. When Russia sent its army into Ukraine, it broke one of the strongest rules of the modern world. Don't change borders by force. This wasn't a small clash. This was full-scale war. Tanks rolled across borders. Missiles hit cities. Homes, hospitals, and schools were destroyed. Millions of ordinary people, families just like ours, ran for their lives. For the first time in generations, Europeans saw war on their television screens happening next door. And that's when reality hit hard. European leaders realized peace is not permanent. Security is not guaranteed. Comfort can disappear overnight. The belief that it can't happen here was shattered. Imagine this. You go to sleep tonight thinking, your job is safe. Your electricity will work. Your savings mean something. Now, imagine waking up tomorrow and suddenly, fuel prices double. Electricity becomes expensive or unavailable. Food prices rise. Jobs disappear. Your government starts talking about emergency rules. This is exactly what war did to Europe. Because of the Russia-Ukraine war, gas prices shot up across Europe. Electricity bills exploded. Inflation hit common people, not politicians. Businesses closed. Families had to choose between heating and groceries. A war hundreds of kilometers away entered people's kitchens, wallets, and daily stress. That's the biggest lesson Europe learned. Modern war doesn't stay on the battlefield. It enters your home, your salary, your future. War today is not just about soldiers and tanks. It's about your job, your bills, your food, and your peace of mind. And now, America is looking elsewhere. While Europe was still adjusting to the shock of war, something quieter, but just as important, was taking place. The United States, Europe's strongest security partner for nearly 80 years, began shifting its main attention away from Europe. Not because America suddenly dislikes Europe, but because a new global rival has emerged, China. Today, America sees its biggest long-term challenge in the Indo-Pacific region. Taiwan, South China Sea, military competition with China, control over technology, trade routes, and influence. This means U.S. money, military power, ships, and strategic focus are increasingly moving eastward. Europe noticed this shift clearly, and a disturbing thought entered European capitals. What if America is distracted by a crisis in Asia? What if Europe becomes the second priority? For the first time since World War II, Europe realized it might not always have America's full attention. This doubt is new, and in geopolitics, doubt itself is dangerous. Europe's security system was built on one assumption. America will always be there. But what if a China-Taiwan crisis explodes? The U.S. military is stretched thin? U.S. voters demand focus on domestic problems? None of these are impossible, and Europe understands one harsh truth. No country can fight two major crises at full strength forever. Think of this in personal terms. Imagine you live in a family where one strong earning member pays most of the bills, protects the family during emergencies, handles big problems. You feel safe because that person is always there. Now imagine that same person suddenly says, I still care about you, but my job, my health, and another family responsibility need more of my time. Nothing bad has happened yet, but suddenly you feel uncertain. You start asking, should we save more? Should we learn to handle emergencies ourselves? What if help doesn't come on time? That feeling of uncertainty is exactly what Europe is experiencing. When your strongest protector might be busy elsewhere, you don't panic, but you prepare. That's where Europe stands today. On the surface, NATO looks powerful, but beneath that strength, pressure is building. For decades, Europe's main military shield has been NATO. On paper, NATO looks unbeatable. 30-plus countries, the world's strongest armies, advanced weapons and technology. One rule that sounds ironclad. An attack on one is an attack on all. But reality is more complicated. Not all NATO members see the world the same way. Some European countries feel the threat every single day because they are right next to Russia. Countries like Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania see Russia as an immediate danger. Because of this, they spend heavily on defense. They build strong armies. They welcome NATO troops on their soil. They demand tough action, not delays. For them, this is not theory. It's about survival. On the other side are countries farther away from the conflict. Nations like Spain, Italy, and at times even Germany feel less immediate military pressure because the threat feels distant. They spend less on defense. They worry more about economic costs. They prefer diplomacy and negotiations. Their public opinion is often more cautious. For them, the fear is real, but not urgent. When countries face the same enemy, but feel different levels of danger, unity becomes harder, especially in moments that demand fast decisions. Now at politics. Some governments face strong public pressure to avoid war at all costs. For example, governments in Germany and Italy have large sections of society that deeply fear escalation. Their voters often say, "We don't want another war in Europe." This pressure makes leaders cautious. Some leaders fear massive economic damage if tensions rise further. Leaders in countries like France and Spain worry about trade losses, inflation, energy prices, social unrest. They must balance security decisions with economic stability at home. Some populations strongly oppose higher military spending. In parts of Belgium, Netherlands, and Italy, people often ask, why spend billions on weapons when healthcare and jobs need money? Politicians cannot ignore this sentiment. What this means for NATO. Because NATO works on consensus, every major decision needs agreement from all members. So when a crisis happens, some want immediate military action. Some want talks first. Some want to wait and see. That discussion takes time. And in modern warfare, time itself can be a weakness. NATO is strong, but democracy makes decisions slower. And enemies know how to use that delay. So why is unity no longer as easy as it once was? In modern warfare, speed matters. Missiles don't wait. Cyber attacks happen in seconds. Hybrid warfare creates confusion before decisions are made. If NATO hesitates, even briefly, that hesitation can be exploited. That's why Europe worries. What if unity comes too late? A shield is only strong if it moves together and instantly. Imagine this. You live in a housing society with a common security system. Some residents pay full security fees. Some pay very little. Some want strict security rules. Some say, nothing will happen. Now one night, a real threat appears. The guards don't know. Who is in charge? Should they act immediately? Or should they wait for approval? Even a few minutes of confusion can cause serious damage. That's exactly NATO's problem. It's not about lack of strength. It's about coordination, speed, and unity. In a crisis, strength matters. But decisive unity matters even more. That's the challenge NATO and Europe now faces. Then came the energy shock, and everything changed overnight. For years, Europe followed a simple logic. Russian gas was cheap, reliable, and always available. Homes were heated with it. Factories ran on it. Power plants depended on it. Then the war happened. As tensions rose with Russia, Europe decided to cut down its dependence on Russian gas. Fast. On paper, this sounded like a strong political move. In real life, it hit ordinary people first. Suddenly, electricity prices jumped. Gas bills doubled or even tripled. Inflation rose across countries. Factories slowed down or shut completely. Governments could make speeches, but people had to pay the bills. Europe learned a painful truth. You can't separate energy from geopolitics. Energy is power. And when global politics change, energy prices react immediately. Europe didn't just lose gas. It lost cheap stability. Replacing Russian energy overnight meant buying more expensive gas from elsewhere, competing with other countries for supply, spending billions in emergency subsidies. This pressure moved straight into daily life. Food became costlier. Transport costs increased. Jobs became uncertain. A geopolitical decision taken at the top trickled down into every household. Think about your own home. Imagine you always buy cooking gas from one nearby shop. It's affordable. It's reliable. You've used it for years. Now suddenly, that shop closes overnight. You're forced to buy gas from far away. It's expensive. Supply is uncertain. Prices change every week. Your cooking habits change. Your monthly budget breaks. Your stress increases. That's exactly what happened to Europe. Russian gas was that nearby shop. When it disappeared, every family felt the shock. Energy wars don't stay on maps or headlines. They enter your kitchen, wallet, and peace of mind. That's why Europe now understands. Energy is not just business, it's geopolitics. So the real question is, can Europe stand alone? After war, energy shocks, and growing uncertainty about allies, Europe is now asking itself one uncomfortable question. Can we protect ourselves without depending on others? This idea is called strategic autonomy. In simple terms, strategic autonomy means that Europe wants the ability to make its own defense and security decisions, spend enough money to protect itself, respond quickly to crises without waiting for approval from outside powers. On paper, this sounds logical, but in reality, it's extremely difficult. The European Union is made up of many countries, each with different histories, different fears, different political systems, different public opinions. Some countries feel threatened every day. Others feel relatively safe. Some want to invest heavily in weapons. Others prefer social welfare over defense spending. So while leaders agree on the idea of strategic autonomy in speeches, turning words into action is slow and complicated. And in geopolitics, delay is dangerous. Everyone sees the problem, but the response remains blurred. Standing alone doesn't just mean buying weapons. It means building common military systems, sharing intelligence smoothly, making fast decisions during crises, convincing citizens to support higher defense budgets. All of this requires unity, trust, and sacrifice. And that's where Europe struggles. Think of this situation. Imagine you've lived your whole life in a joint family. One elder handles security. One person handles emergencies. You never had to worry. Now suddenly, you're told, you must manage everything yourself. At first, you agree. It sounds empowering, but then reality hits. You need more money. You need new skills. You need quick decision-making. You can't always ask others for help. That transition is exactly what Europe is facing. Strategic autonomy sounds strong, but it demands real responsibility, not just confidence. Depending on others feels safe until it doesn't. Europe now stands at that crossroads. The question is no longer, do we want strategic autonomy? The real question is, are we ready to pay the price for it? This is exactly why the Munich meeting matters. It reveals what leaders are really thinking. The Munich Security Conference isn't just another fancy gathering of world leaders. This year became a crossroads for the future of global security, especially for Europe. Over 3 intense days in Munich, leaders from the United States, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Ukraine, the European Union, and NATO met to debate a harsh new reality. The old rules of global peace and security are breaking down. In Munich, this wasn't about theories anymore. Real choices had to be made. Who will pay for Europe's defense? Countries like Germany, France, Poland, and the UK have been increasing military spending, but not all members agree on how much or who should lead. Who leads in a crisis? When danger strikes, hesitation can be costly. Leaders asked, who takes charge if a conflict escalates quickly? Do European nations coordinate first or wait for the US? This question cuts right to the heart of Europe's defense identity. Can old alliances be relied on? The United States was represented by figures like Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who emphasized cooperation with Europe, but also hinted that Europe must pull its weight. At the same time, European leaders stressed that Europe can't simply depend on others forever. Ukraine's presence changed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't theoretical anymore. President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke directly about the ongoing war. He thanked Europe for its growing support and made it clear that nations defending their own borders have a voice in shaping Europe's future security strategy. This wasn't abstract geopolitics. It was an urgent plea from someone living with war every day. At the meeting, German and EU leaders pushed Europe to rely on its own strengths and cooperation, not just on old alliances. There were calls to repair and revive transatlantic trust with the US, but also statements reminding everyone that the era of unquestioned American leadership is over, and that Europe needs stronger strategic independence. This year's Munich conference made one thing very clear. Europe is no longer living in a world where old guarantees automatically protect it. Partnerships matter, but alone they are not enough. Europe must decide how it will face danger with others and on its own terms. That's why this moment wasn't routine, it was historic. Here's a story everyone can relate to. Imagine your town has always relied on a powerful national police force stationed nearby. For years, everyone assumed help would arrive within minutes if danger struck. People didn't lock doors carefully, parents felt safe letting kids walk alone, and community budgets didn't include serious security planning. Suddenly, the national force says, "We will still protect you, but we have new priorities, and our response might take longer." Now the town council meets. They begin to ask real questions. Should we hire our own emergency team? Who pays for it? Who leads when danger arrives? Should we keep relying on the old national guarantee? This moment, when people realize the old safety net may no longer work like it used to, is exactly what leaders are debating in Munich. Security is no longer an abstract concept handled by others. It's now something everyone will feel in their daily lives, in their jobs, their budgets, and their peace of mind. History doesn't wait for certainty. It happens when decisions are made under pressure. The choices at Munich won't just shape Europe's governments or armies. They will shape the future safety of every citizen. Europe is not collapsing, but it is waking up. The world is becoming more dangerous. Power politics is back, and neutrality is no longer easy. The big question is not, is Europe strong? The real question is Europe ready? Before you leave, remember this. This video isn't about Europe. It's about real life. When wars happen and global power shifts, most people react after the damage. Smart people understand before it happens. If you're a teacher, share this with your students. It's a lesson they'll remember. If you're a father, share this with your children, because financial understanding is lifelong power. If you're a mother, sharing this today can make your children more aware and prepared for tomorrow. This channel exists to make complex global events simple and useful for everyday life. If this video helped you think clearly, subscribe because the next insight might help you make a better decision. The world is changing fast. Stay informed, stay prepared, stay ahead.